Hi, I'm Barry Ostrowski. At RWJ Barnabas Health, we believe that everyone needs to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support the important educational programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. RWJ Barnabas Health, the Northward Center, Berkeley College, and by Kessler Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities. Promotional support provided by ROINJ, informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey, and by bestofnj.com, all New Jersey in one place.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
This is Steve Adubato coming to you from the NJTV studio. This is One-on-One. That video we're going to put in context. This is part of our Future of Innovation series. Proud to introduce a gentleman who's very much behind that video. He's Ralph Zucker, President, Somerset Development, developer of BellWorks. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Tell folks what we're looking at. Is that, by the way, what is commonly referred to as a Metroburb?
Yes. First Metroburb that we know, we coined the term. We tried to create a word that would capture the idea of a metropolis in suburbia.
But where is that?
In suburbia, Homedale, New Jersey.
Exit 114 off the Garden State Parkway.
Yes, former Bell Labs. It was the Googleplex before there was Google.
Okay. You had this idea, you said, over a decade of a Metroburb. Why?
Well, we find that people gravitate towards urban cores. They want that urban cool, urban comfort, urban convenience. But more people live in the suburbs than live in the cities, and they also want to benefit from that slice of urbanity. So we bring it to them, to suburbia.
So what goes on there? I mean, and how does it change the landscape and the culture of the community?
Well, if you walk into BellWorks any given day, you'll find a hub of activity. You'll find a pedestrian, we call it on the block, a main street running right through the building with shops, slowly but surely opening up, restaurants, food hall, daycare, medical care, dentist, topped by 1.2 million square feet of office. So it has that urban feel. You have everything you would have in a small city, and great companies coming together to cross-pollinate, to be inspired from each other.
You know, our friends at the Economic Development Authority told us about what you and your colleagues are doing, again, part of our series looking at innovation. How do you view this concept of quote-unquote innovation? Is innovation just another word for, hey, how do we remain more relevant in a competitive situation, a competitive environment? Isn't that really what innovation is?
Well, to me, innovation is a return to common sense. It's allowing people unfettered access to each other. It's getting them out from behind their desk. It's allowing that serendipitous encounter that causes creativity, that fosters creativity. That's what innovation is all about. When Bell Labs was designed...
By the way, tell folks what Bell Labs was. Talk about innovation.
Yeah.
What was Bell Labs, and then what happened?
Well, Bell Labs in the early 1900s, but when Bell Labs in Homedale was built, it was the home to 6,000 of the greatest minds in the world. There were
These are people who did well in their SATs.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry.
They're probably
I wasn't
before
one of them.
Probably before SATs. Neither was I.
Oh, you're right. Okay, go ahead. I believe you were, but that's another story.
But they really were allowed an opportunity to sit there and just think. People were paid to think, and some of the greatest inventions ever came out of there.
Such as?
Talk about fiber optics, talk about, I think there were 8 Nobel Prizes, won out of Bell Labs to date, maybe more, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of patents, a lot of programming languages, laser technology, Telstar from other locations in Bell Labs. They really changed our world. And in an interesting way, the building contributed to its own demise.
What do you mean?
Because people were unfettered. They were allowed to, now we had cellular technology. Your cell phone is now your office. So the need for these large corporate locations slowly dissipated.
And so necessity is, in fact, Ralph, the mother of innovation?
Yeah, I guess so, because people now, there's
You
a
saw
need
a
to
shell
come
there.
back
I hate to
together.
go, sorry for interrupting. You see a shell there, you go, hey, wait a minute. Let's reimagine what this could be.
Well, I walked in 2007 to a vacant building.
12 years ago?
Yeah. One guard sitting there, couldn't even tell if he was breathing or not.
At the old Bell Labs?
The old Bell Labs. And it was just desolate and empty.
And you saw what in your head?
Well, in my mind, I saw this pedestrian street. I saw shops. I just saw exactly what we have there today. I had like a
What do you
moment.
mean you saw that? Who walks in to a big shell with a guard there that you're not even sure if he or she is awake, and you go, hey, look at the possibilities. Who does that?
Well, I'm a developer. You know, I'm a new urbanist by trade.
A new urbanist.
New urbanism is a kind word of saying the idea of just creating great places for great people. Urbanism is all about people. Developers, we think we're all about buildings, but we're all about demographics. We're all about people. We're all about social experiment. That's what it's all about. And it's really about bringing people together.
By the way, before I let you go, what kind of folks are coming here in terms of businesses and individuals?
All kinds. We have everything from the most innovative technologies companies like NVIDIA or Vidya that's doing cutting edge stuff on the internet, autonomous driving vehicle research, to some insurance companies, but still they want to be in a great, inspiring location. So we really run the gamut. Over 70 companies, soon to be close to 50 different shops.
This is amazing. And by the way, I want to remind folks, while Ralph Zucker is talking about what's going on at this Metroburb over on exit 114 on the Garden State Parkway, the old Bell Labs. This is part of our Future of Innovation series. By the way, all of us in the media as well, our partners at NJTV, innovating all the time, take a look at the technology there, the way information is being distributed. We do the same thing. That's what you're doing, and that's why we're doing this series. And Ralph, we appreciate you joining us, sharing this powerful story, and we wish you all the best down at the old Bell Labs.
Yes, now Bell Works.
Bell Works.
Yes. Thank you very, very much.
Our pleasure. Thanks. This is Steve. Stay right there. Don't run away. This is Steve Adubato. This is One on One. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Hi, Steve Adubato coming to you from the North Ward Center in Newark, New Jersey. We're talking about autism, titled this series, Autism, A Different Way of Thinking. We are pleased to be joined by Nadine Wright-Arbubakrr, who is the founder and president of Nassan's Place. Tell everyone who Nassan is and why it matters so much.
Nassan is my very big baby boy. He's 14 years old, 6'4". He's nonverbal, and he is one of the sweetest, most special, most wonderful little big guys in the whole wide world. And he's mine.
He's 14 now.
He's 14, and he has autism.
When did you first sense that Nassan might have autism?
I called out his name one day when he was about 18, 19 months, and he didn't respond. Nassan was saying, Mama, bye-bye, Daddy. And he was waving, and then all of a sudden it stopped. But one day, I called out his name, and he didn't respond, and he was right next to me. I said, Nassan, Nassan, and he didn't. The Elmo commercial came on, and he turned to look, I was like, well, maybe something wrong with his hearing, but he heard that. So what I did is I tested it to see if it was his hearing. I laid him on a bed. I DVR'd the commercial, the Elmo commercial, and I called out his name. I'll never forget that day. I laid him down, and he didn't respond. As soon as I put on the DVR and the Elmo commercial came up, he jumped up. So I said, this is strange. But then I noticed the flapping of the hands, and then he started running back and forth repetitiously. And I couldn't understand what it was, and I started to Google it. And when I saw the word autism come up, I was like, no, it can't be that. Maybe it's all in my mind. But I couldn't ignore the signs, so I did talk to the pediatrician. And at that pediatrician, I said, something's not right. You know, he's not doing what my daughters did. I had 3 other children prior to him. Well, boys develop differently. They develop slower than girls, you know. Like, no, something's not right. So we had his hearing tested. It wasn't until I put him into a daycare setting in East Orange. And the very first day, he was about maybe 22 months at that time, because I knew something was wrong, but no one could tell me. You knew at 18 months? I knew.
Did not get confirmation?
Did not get confirmation. So it wasn't until I put him in, because he was being babysat by someone in a home, and I even asked her, something's not right here, you know. And she didn't seem to know what was happening. But the very first day that I put him in a daycare center, I came to pick him up, and the teacher said to me, you know, I would like to talk to you. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, you know, he kept to himself, which he did. He wasn't talking. He wasn't making eye contact. She said, well, maybe you should get him evaluated. That was probably the happiest day of my life at that moment.
Why?
Because someone was now justifying and clarifying that I wasn't crazy.
Reaffirming.
Yeah. They were reaffirming that I wasn't crazy, that there was something wrong with him, and I needed to get him evaluated. I just didn't know how to go about doing it. And because of her, I was able to start the process, get a developmental pediatrician, and start all that, because he wasn't quite yet 3, so he wasn't in the school systems for them to do the test. So I did the developmental pediatrician did the assessment and called us back in after they did all of it. And we got the diagnosis, not autism, we got the diagnosis of persuasive developmental delay. PSD, not otherwise specified.
Is that not on the autism spectrum?
Well, what they considered back then, and this is going back almost 13 years ago, that a child has up until the age of 5 to continue his growth developmentally. And by 5 years old, at that time, that's when they were going to diagnose him with autism. So because he was still growing and still had a window of opportunity, it was called persuasive developmental delay.
Fast forward, which is not fair to you, because your experience, the impact on your family is something the vast majority of people can't imagine right now. While you were great in the panel discussion we had, and people can check it out on our programming. You'll see the website, you can check it out. What's the main message you want to deliver to, primarily to other parents right now?
What I want to deliver to other parents right now is don't ignore the signs.
Someone says, I don't want to get my kid labeled.
You're doing your child a huge injustice and yourself, because the longer you wait to get that child the resources that he needs to, or she needs to become productive, it's going to be harder once they're older. And I tell you, don't ignore the signs. There's a huge stigma amongst people in urban inner cities to not want to acknowledge that there's something wrong.
You think it's different?
I think it's very different.
Urban areas versus suburban areas?
I do.
So we're in Newark, New Jersey, 5-10 miles from here, and Short Hills, Livingston. You think it's different?
I think it's different.
How so?
I think that people who are in the suburban communities can better identify or better relate. Unfortunately, a lot of our families are single-parent households who are trying to make a living. They're working long, crazy hours. So sometimes they don't even see the signs themselves. Whereas you have mostly in suburbans, a lot of wives are home. They get to see, or they're getting more input from the school systems or the daycare centers that these children may be in. Whereas, unfortunately, in urban inner cities, the education level is not there in terms of educating the educators on what signs to look for.
What did you have in you? What was it about you? What is it about you that you're not just dealing every day, but advocating every day?
because I never want a parent to go through what I went through when my son was diagnosed. I was on the phone every day. I cried every day. I tried to find services and resources. I tried to find someone who could help me relate. How do I deal with this? What do I do? What's next? Okay, he has this diagnosis, now what? I mean, there was nothing in my community. There were no after-school programs. There were no support groups that I can find. There was no respite, because we need the stress time. And, you know, I said, I got to do something. This is driving me
Describe what it
crazy.
is that you've done.
Well, it took 3 years for me to make the decision to start Nassan's Place. Nassan's Place is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And when I started out with Nassan's Place, I just wanted respite care. I just wanted a break like any other parent, because it can be overwhelming. But I found out so much more was needed. Educational programs, Saturday programs, after-school programs. It was lacking in the urban inner city. And the programs that were out there, they weren't affordable to those families in the urban inner city. So that's why I started to try to get programs in the services. You know, one of the biggest things for a nonprofit, and any nonprofit, unfortunately, is the challenges of getting funding.
That's right.
Because we currently are now starting to get a little funding in grants. But up until 5 years ago, we weren't getting any state, federal funding, and we're going into our 7th year. But the one thing I can tell you, Nassan's Place has changed lives of thousands of children in and around urban inner cities. And I tell people all the time, Nassan's Place is not an organization for children in the urban inner city. We are an organization for children with autism, period. It doesn't matter where you come from. We've had people come from New York to some of our events and programs, from South Jersey, and it's just an opportunity for families to connect, to be a part of something.
Before I let you go, what is it that you want to say about your son to everyone else watching right now?
My son has made significant strides, and it's through the support of the community. And one thing I want to say is that I believe that autism is a health crisis in our country, especially in the state of New Jersey. So it requires the public and the private sector. And I think it's important to people to know that your children can prosper, they can grow. I never thought Nassan would go to the bathroom on his own. He didn't get potty trained till he's 9. He no longer wears diapers anymore. He can go to the bathroom. He doesn't verbally tell me what he wants, but he signifies it by pointing, reaching, or even signing. If he wants food, he knows, you know, and more, you know. So he's come through a long way, and I gotta give a big thank you to your sister, Michelle Adubato. She's one of
she's the executive director, the CEO here at the Northwood Center, and is the founder of the Center for Autism.
And at the time that I met Michelle, she was the principal at an amazing school in Newark called New Jersey Regional Day, where my son has been for the last 7 years and has grown significantly. And I tell people, you know, look for the resources, don't ignore the signs, and just know you're not alone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to welcome Amanda Missey, President and Chief Executive Officer of Bergen Volunteer Medical Initiative. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Our friends at Horizon told us all about what you're doing. We asked them, who's out there as partners that are making a difference in the community when it comes to providing quality health care to people who don't have access? By the way, how many people don't have access that we're talking about?
There are thousands in Bergen County. It's a number that's kind of hard to pin down because it's constantly changing.
Millions across the nation?
Millions across the nation, thousands in Bergen County.
What happens, Amanda? You're very close to this. By the way, your 10th anniversary is going to be in the fall.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep.
So, and people can go on the website and find out more, but I'm curious about this. For those of us who have coverage, we have health insurance, sometimes we can get so far away from it that we don't appreciate or understand what it's like not to. Describe that.
So if you don't have health insurance, you put off health care until you get.
What does that mean, you put off?
That means you just don't take care of yourself. You don't go to the doctor because it costs money, and then you get really, really sick, and you go to the emergency room.
And then?
And then they take care of whatever your immediate problem is, and then say, go see your doctor. And you don't have a doctor.
Devil's advocate, someone says, yes, so you're getting taken care of, but it's not that simple.
It is not.
First of all, the cost is greater.
Yes.
But are you really dealing with the underlying causes
No, you're
of
not.
what? Yeah, talk about that.
No. So for people particularly with chronic conditions, so say you're a diabetic, you go to the hospital because you've gone into diabetic shock, they treat you, they turn you back out, say go to your doctor, you don't have a doctor to go to, so it's kind of a cycle. You end up back in the hospital. You could end up losing a leg. Yeah.
Talk about your organization, specifically how you're able to help people who do not have the health care that they need.
Okay. We actually are part of the Volunteers in Medicine network of free clinics. There are about 88 of them in the country. And the model is that we use volunteer clinicians, so doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, dietitians, physical therapists, to provide free care for our patients.
Free?
Free.
How does that work?
100% free. They come to our office, they check in, and they see the doctor.
And your resources come from where?
It's all fundraising.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about public broadcasting? I'm joking. People don't realize, they go, oh, that's the thing you do with your organization.
Right.
But a lot of your time is spent, as it is for those of us in this world, raising the dollars, having the resources. What is that, the famous quote, no money?
No money,
mission.
No mission, exactly.
No money, no mission. Is it the same thing? Or do people turn around and go, oh my God, you're doing great work. Here's $100,000. That doesn't happen.
A couple people.
But that's not the norm.
But not often. No, it's not.
That's not the norm. So you're out there making. What's the case that you make when you're out there raising money?
The case is that these people, our patients, don't have access to health care, and they are the people who are taking care of your children, who are serving your meals in the restaurant, who are doing your nails or your hair or mowing your lawn. And you want them to be healthy because first, they're around you and your loved ones.
Right.
Secondly, if they're not healthy, they can't go out and work and bring in money to take care of their families. So, yeah.
So let me try this. And this segment, One-on-One is not a quote-unquote political show. It's not what we do. We don't even do public policy per se, but we are curious about certain things. As we're doing this program in the spring of 2019, there's been a recent discussion that there are some who want to repeal and do away with the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare.
Right.
And we're not going to debate or discuss the pros and cons. That's for you to decide. Or potentially the courts, if certain people have their way. What would it mean if the entirety of the Affordable Care Act were dismantled as it relates to the people we're talking about? What would it mean?
Well, it wouldn't actually affect the people that we see now because they already don't have insurance. But
who would it affect for those
who do? It would
do?
affect people who currently have Obamacare, and they would lose their insurance. So they would then begin ending up in the emergency room and not have access to doctors.
So to be clear, a 26-year-old or 25-year-old who is on his or her parents' insurance plan because the parents have coverage, if the Affordable Care Act were repealed, that 24, 25, 26-year-old would no longer have it.
Exactly, yes.
And the pre-existing condition issue?
Would go away, yeah.
Okay. I'm curious about this. You talk about a culture of caring, philosophy. Could you make that more real for us?
I can. It sounds kind of corny, but it's a real thing.
It doesn't sound corny, I just want to understand it.
It means that we treat our patients and our volunteers and our staff with respect. We make sure that they feel respected and cared for and like somebody's got their back.
You know, you and I were talking before we got on the air, man, and I asked you about the Korean community, which is significant in Bergen County.
Very big, right? Yes.
And I asked you this question, so we'll talk about it on the air. The whole term cultural sensitivity, cultural awareness, right? How is it even relevant? And I'll ask it this way. Is it any different serving those in the Korean American community in terms of health services or any other community?
It is, actually.
How so?
We're finding that it is. Besides the obvious difference of language, there are cultural differences in the way that the Korean community interacts with their healthcare providers, and there are different cultural norms when it comes to healthcare that we don't know about. I mean, we're very good at taking care of the Latino community because we have a significant number of Latino patients. So we have many people who speak Spanish. We understand the culture because we have many people who live that culture.
But Bergen County has a huge Korean population, and the Korean population is growing across this state and this nation.
Yes.
But why is that more challenging?
Well,
than the Hispanic community?
because we don't know what we don't know is the first piece. Like we really kind of had no idea what we were getting into when we started the Korean program. We've got a young woman who is Korean American who is running the program. So she's teaching us. There are healthcare concerns. Hepatitis B is big in the Korean community. So there are health concerns that we need to learn about. And it's just proven to be a real challenge to integrate.
Diet matters as well.
Diet matters as well.
Is the diet overall, I hate to generalize, but is it in some ways different in the Korean?
It's very different in the Korean community, yes, yes.
10th anniversary coming up, I mentioned before. What does it mean to you to work with the folks at the Bergen Volunteer Medical Initiative and do the work you do every day? What does it mean to you on a personal level?
On a personal level, I love going to work every day. Generally, well, pretty much always, people have a smile on their face, they want to be there. So it's a nice place to go to. It's very nurturing. So if there's something going on with me personally, people notice and they ask me about it, and it's the same kind of care that we extend to our patients.
That's what you mean by a culture of caring,
It is.
So glad we have people who care the way you do and your colleagues, and congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you.
We wish you continued success in making a difference in the lives of others. Amanda Missey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thanks.
it. This is One-on-One. We're coming to you from NJTV Studios in Newark, the Agnes Ferris studio. We'll catch you next time.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Choose New Jersey, RWJ Barnabas Health, the Northward Center, Berkeley College, and by Kessler Foundation. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
You may not have heard of TAVR. Raj and Sandhya have. It's the minimally invasive alternative to open heart valve replacement. RWJ Barnabas Health is New Jersey's leading TAVR provider, and we continue to perfect it. Patients are often back to their lives in just a few days. Innovative valve replacement surgery, because you can't be replaced. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.